Hello, let's talk about some Canadian content on this channel for change. Game Changer, which is number one in the Game Changer series, which has been quite famously adapted into the Heated Rivalry series, where this book is sort of been highly condensed and slotted in as a little side story, basically kind of taking up one episode and a little bit to the larger story that happens with Shane and Ilya, starting in, I believe, book 2. So yeah, this is definitely a review which is colored by me having watched Heated Rivalry before I came to these books. This is published in 2018 by Rachel Reed, a Canadian author. And it's kind of cute. It's kind of long. The sex isn't that great. But it also has its charms. And you also, probably most importantly to my point of view, you see little bits of, Ilya Rozanov, getting introduced in this book as a shit-talking, Russian hockey player. So yeah, the whole kind of premise of this series is it's hockey, and hockey where no player is out as gay, and is probably seen as, because it's such a bastion of male heterosexuality and a certain kind of male heterosexuality, that it's taboo. No one is. And in this world, we have Scott Hunter, who is the captain of the New York Admirals. Interestingly enough, in the book, the teams are fictitious, but it is in the NHL, and they do play for the Stanley Cup, whereas I believe once you get to the TV show, they make up different names for the NHL and also for the cup that they are playing for. But yeah, it's the NHL. It's and the Stanley Cup and stuff like that. So yeah, Scott meets Kip. There's a meet cute at the very beginning, where Scott goes in to get a smoothie and meets the very cute, very hot Kip, Christopher Grady, who is a smoothie barista with, that's what he's doing with his life. He would like to get more education, work in a museum, kind of a museum curator or something like that. Hasn't been having the success. He's like in his later 20s, feeling like he's kind of getting left behind. He's got a successful friend, Elena, who is definitely kind of representative of like the friends who have, like, their careers are all booming, and he's still doing a Joe job, being a smoothie barista, also working as a kind of a waiter at catered events. Both jobs giving him opportunities to bump into and to fall in love with Scott. So yeah, there's this. This does suffer from what I call the George R.R. Martin problem. No, George R.R. Martin is probably a more skilled writer. This is the first book by Rachel Reed, so I'm not going to judge it too hard. But this is definitely going for a lot lighter, a lot more humble of goals. But there's this thing of when you watch George R.R. Martin stuff adapted onto screen, and then you go back to his books, you go, oh, this is taking a lot of time in the book, because like the TV show really compresses thing, and that's like gangbusters with this. Game Changer is listed as a 400-page novel. I don't know if that's like with wide margins and large font, but it's like, it's a long, it feels like a very long story. Something that, yes, could get condensed down by a really good adapter into a single episode. And that sort of helps because Kip and Scott are nice, but they're not that interesting. They are kind of boring. They're boring guys. The most exciting thing is, Scott has to stay in the closet, and they have to keep their love affair a secret, and that ends up causing, Kip, who doesn't particularly want to be back in the closet and be a dirty secret. That's where the friction of this story comes from. But it's like over 400 pages. Reed kind of struggles to kind of keep the interest up there, because yeah, Kip is nice, Scott is nice, but there's not a giant amount of like until we finally do get to the conflict of like, I cannot be in a secret relationship with you anymore. I can't be the dirty secret. I need to have my own life. I can't just be something, a possession that's kept in your palatial penthouse. Until we finally get to that, it's kind of boring. Part of what also makes it unfortunately boring, which is kind of a crucial thing in a spatial kind of what's supposed to be a spicy, hot guy on guy kind of story, is the sex is kind of boring. I think what makes it boring is that it's so great. Immediately, just the second they get together, it is just like they have the best sex ever. Oh my God, they touch each other. It is so amazing. And it's like you start at a 10 and there's nowhere to go. It just kind of stays at 10 of amazing sex, which I was like, okay, it was so kind of monotone that way that I was like, oh, okay, let's get back to the hockey. Oh, let's get back to the drama. It's like the sex wasn't a spice anymore. It was just like, it was like way too much sugar. And it's like, can I have less of this, please? Which is like, you don't want that. That's like a crucial thing. That should be the thing that's like, okay, it's a long book, but it's because we have a lot of hot sex scenes in it. And it contributed to making the book feel a lot longer than it actually was, which, yeah, you don't want in a book like this. I've read books with guys having sex, and it's like, okay, that is hot, and it's like it's the spice, but this was not the spice. This was the oversugared kind of monotone, one note sort of thing. So there's that. It is interesting that the TV show, this has to be kind of a comparison in a way, because these thoughts come into my head, is that the TV show excises a lot of the kind of economic disparity in a way between Kip and Scott, and to Kip's favor, because in the book, Kip is like really notices like how awesome Scott's wealth has, like he's like his amazing penthouse apartment, his amazing tub. There's a couple of things like that where Rachel Reed is kind of using Kip's viewpoint to kind of like get the reader in on the luxury porn, but it has a side effect of making Kip seem like, are you attracted to Scott, who's kind of a big hunka man meat, because of Scott, or is it because of Scott's surroundings? Now, they do make a lot of efforts to kind of counterbalance that with, he doesn't accept gifts. At one point, Scott tries to, pay off his student loan, and it's like, no, we're not going to do that. But because which is always a part of like, can be always part of a fantasy of like, you're poor and suddenly you find someone who's rich, and it becomes more of a, there's a certain kind of person who would be like, yes, I'm totally into this guy, and a part of why I'm into this guy is he's going to treat me like the princess I want to be, and shower me with gifts, and that's a part of how I am going to feel love in kind of a more transactional sense. It kind of gets in there. There's also a couple of things of just like, Kip is kind of, he's insecure. He's somebody who feels like his life isn't moving apace, like he's comparing himself to his friends. So he's sort of neurotic about that. Not neurotic about that, but he's insecure about that. So it makes sense that he can't, he fools himself maybe at the beginning to say, oh, I'm fine being in a discreet relationship with Scott, but that pretty much quickly flips, and it's like, now Scott, no, you have to come out right now, kind of. There's kind of that impetus, which is like, that's not going to work for Scott. And God, there is a thing of Kip, because of how it's interesting, like how it's structured in the TV show. They break up, and several months go by, and they get into the playoffs. Scott gets into the playoffs, and that's when there's like kind of the big kind of, we're going to get back together again thing. In this thing, it's like, no, Kip breaks up with him as he's in the playoffs, which is just like, oh, you're really going to fuck with his head just when he's at the most stressful part of his professional life, which doesn't really, it makes Kip seem more selfish there. So yeah, there's that. There are things in the book that I think kind of fill in for the thing. Like it's very dramatic, and it's because it's so compressed, we can have a kind of dramatic surprise coming out without any preparation by Scott. Whereas in the book, Scott is able to actually have a lot more preparation. He shares with other people in his life, friends, co-work, well, mostly friends / co-workers, the various professional things. So it seems a lot more, it's more responsible, and it actually fits with Scott's character better than, we kind of quickly, it's by the fact that it's so compressed and quick. On the TV show, you don't really think about that at the time, but then you read the book and go, oh yeah, that makes sense. And actually, the book is actually better at showing homophobia. It's still fairly light homophobia as things go, but it's like it's more acknowledging. It's less of a kind of the fantasy world. Though there is a rather depressing line where he's talking to someone about like coming out, and they're saying like, oh, if you do this, it's not gonna be good. And Scott makes the point, and this is a book published in 2018. Well, it's like, well, maybe things are changing. And that was 2018, and now you look at like corporations and stuff like that. It's like, no, things have changed back. They would totally drop someone like Scott like a hot rock because, being gay is political. So we're just going to take a step back from that because we don't want to offend all the homophobes that have been empowered by what's happened in the space of time between 2018 and 2026, which is somewhat depressing. Definitely going to continue on with this. There's a good peppering of Ilya Rostorov, Ilya, of half of Ilya and Shane in this book as this shit talking Russian player. He's an asshole, but he's like he's the fun kind. He is indeed the fun kind of asshole throughout this book, and there's actually quite a lot of kind of comedic lines that come from him. You can see that there's a lot of spark here, which I'm looking forward to reading the book version in the next one, which is, I think, Game Changers #2, which is called Heated Rivalry. All right, I will leave it there. That has been my thoughts on Game Changer by Rachel Reed. Canadian. Woohoo! Man, us Canadians, we gotta grab it where we can find it. All right, I'll leave it there.